Hi everyone. If you are a fresher planning to make a career in Salesforce, or in case you are a working professional exploring options to switch your career to Salesforce, this video is particularly for you. I know there is a lot of confusion around how do we move to the Salesforce domain or the Salesforce ecosystem, and what are the different career options, who can basically get into it, what sort of training or what sort of skills you need to make a career into Salesforce. There are a lot of questions around this, and well, there is a lot of information available about specific career paths in Salesforce. For example, you may get a lot of information around the role of Salesforce developer and how do you become a Salesforce developer, etc. But there is very little information available around what are the different options available to someone who is new to this domain or new to this entire ecosystem, and what to expect if you get into one of those career paths or roles, and what sort of skill set you would need. So I'll try to talk in a nutshell, try and talk about what are the different major career paths. There are a lot of roles in Salesforce, but what are the different major career paths which are available in Salesforce if you're trying to basically get into a career in Salesforce. So I would say that there are if majorly we try to categorize the different roles which are there for Salesforce professionals, it would fall into four main categories. So there are Salesforce administrators, and then there are Salesforce developers, and then we have Salesforce architects, and Salesforce consultants. So Salesforce administrators primarily are the ones who are responsible for managing the overall Salesforce environment within an organization. These are the people who help the users manage things like user access, permissions, do the reports, manage the data, etc. So for example, there are 100 people in a company using Salesforce, and one of the user is not able to see some records that he's supposed to see. Now he reaches out to the administrator. So the role of an administrator, pretty much like you would have company admins, etc. So the role of an administrator is to manage the overall environment, manage who gets to see what, and give those additional permissions as and when required, generate those reports as and when required. So that is primarily the role of administrator. Now to become and possibly this is the most basic role that you can get into. So if you are starting your career into Salesforce, or if you're just starting to learn Salesforce, possibly this is the first thing that you'll have to start learning or understanding. So if you're completely new to Salesforce, try to begin with Salesforce administrator, because that is going to be your beginning point. You cannot get into any of the other three roles or the career paths if you do not know this about Salesforce admin. It's very important for you to know those things. So that is the first path. Secondly, for Salesforce admin, there's one more thing. If you are a non-technical person, if you're not into coding, etc., you still want to get into Salesforce, you want to get started with Salesforce, I think Salesforce admin career path would be the best choice for you to get started. That's one. Now the next one, which is the Salesforce developer role. The Salesforce developers are the people who are the techies who write the code, who build the software, who customize the software, etc. So these developers are basically people who would be customizing the overall Salesforce implementation, or they would be writing code, etc. So this is a proper developer role like any other software developer. Salesforce developers are people who understand programming, who understand the overall Salesforce software lifecycle, development lifecycle, etc., and are able to build solutions, or are able to customize this Salesforce application. Salesforce by default provides a lot of features, functionalities. However, on top of that, it also gives you the option to customize the Salesforce application which is provided out of the box. So to do those customizations, to build those custom features on top of it, you need the Salesforce developers. Now again, within Salesforce development career path, there can be front-end developers, there can be back-end developers, pretty much like any other tech stack. So we do have skill sets. For all backend logics, we use a programming language called Apex, which is primarily used for writing all sort of backend coding. And then we have something called LWC, the Lightning Web Components, which is used for doing all the front end designing. And LWC is very similar to your HTML, JavaScript, CSS kind of a framework, so that which is used for doing all the front end. In addition to that, developers are also involved in stuff like doing integrations. So they may be working with middlewares, etc. Understanding of APIs, etc. would be required. So if you are more of if you are more of a programmer and you want to make a career, maybe Salesforce development is a good role for you. But again, you can become a developer, but you have to start your learning from Salesforce admin. So if you intend to become a Salesforce developer also, you'll have to start with Salesforce admin, and then possibly start learning Salesforce development. Again, in Salesforce development, you will have to learn Apex, you will have to learn LWC, And if you want to do integrations, which in most of the projects would be required, you'll have to understand integration concepts, some DevOps concepts to become a developer. And that's basically the second career path. Now, the third career path can be of the Salesforce architect again. Now, architect, as you can understand, is slightly senior level career path. So you cannot straight away go and become an architect. To become an architect, you have to have good amount of experience within Salesforce. So those who have, say, I would say at least 5-6 years or more than that, in Salesforce and specifically into development, they can try to, you know, get into the track or the career path of Salesforce architect. So architect is the person who designs the overall solution. Architect is the person who looks into the overall application, who thinks about what would work versus what would not work, how the overall system should be designed, solutioned, etc. So to do all those things, it's not enough to just know the basics. You should have a lot of experience. You should know the things. You should understand the different limitations of Salesforce. Salesforce, being a cloud-based platform, comes with a lot of limitations, etc. And while we are designing a solution, or while we are doing some architecture on this, we need to be aware of those limitations, etc. So to become an architect, again, as I said, uh, pretty much the skill sets of a developer, but at a very advanced level, and needs to understand different offerings of Salesforce, like, needs to have deep dive understanding of Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, CPQ, stuff like that. So architect needs to have depth, and at the same time, needs to have knowledge across different Salesforce offerings. And now the fourth track, which is the consultant track, or the business analyst kind of a role. So consultant is the person who acts as a bridge between the business stakeholders and the technical team. So if there's a business, if there's a business team and if there's a technical team which is going to do the development, consultant acts more as a mediator between these two teams. The primary role of a consultant is to understand the requirement and then convey it to the development team or the technical team. Now, because it's very similar to any other business analyst kind of a role. However, if you are trying to become a Salesforce consultant, we call it functional consultant also, or we call it Salesforce business analyst maybe at times. So the role names can differ, as I said, but the major career path is of a Salesforce consultant. Now, to become a consultant, you need a few skills, okay? And specifically to become a Salesforce consultant, let me call it out that way, you need a few skills. So first of all, you would definitely need very strong communication, which is primarily required because you have to communicate on both the sides. Secondly, you need to have a very solid understanding of business processes. So if you are a Sales Cloud consultant, you will have to know how does sales process overall work. If you are a Service Cloud consultant, you will have to understand how does the service process work in general. So understanding of business processes is very important. Third very important thing would be certainly to understand the Sales Cloud, Service Cloud. So if you're a Sales Cloud consultant, you definitely need to understand what are the features available out of the box in Sales Cloud, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, Salesforce has got a lot of features, functionalities already available in the application that they provide. And these consultants are expected to know those features, functionalities which are available. If they know those features and functionalities, it would help in two ways, right? They can recommend some of those features to the business so that they can use those. Secondly, they can also recommend the development team to utilize some of those features, functionalities, instead of going and building everything from the scratch, right? So these are the four major career paths which are available for anyone who is basically trying to make a career into Salesforce or switch their existing career into Salesforce. um, I just wanted to cover it at a slightly high level for you all, to give you give you a bit of understanding. In case you feel that you want to understand, or if in case you feel that you want me to speak more about any specific career path or any specific career role, you can definitely let me know through comments or through DM, and I would be happy to discuss more on those. Yeah, so that's what we're going to cover. I would be sharing more such information in the upcoming videos, so stay tuned.